In this video, we want to talk about product modification and more particularly product modification through the process of innovation. Innovation is referred to as a new or improved product. Successful innovations spread throughout the market or even develop into new markets. Of course, unsuccessful innovations, well, we don't hear about those because we don't experience them. So innovation is the successful implementation of an idea. It's moving from an entrepreneur's idea into some successful innovation, some change or some newness in the marketplace. It could be a new product or a new way of working or a new way of dealing with people or a new service. Whatever it is, it's something new. And if it's successful, it means the product is being voted for by the consumer. So we're now dealing with innovation and looking at it as a continuous process. If we think at this early stage in this particular class about innovation, it is an ongoing process. It doesn't stop. Ever since the Industrial Revolution, the world has been changing. We have had new ideas, new inventions, new discoveries, new ways of living, new products, new ways of working. So we're accustomed to innovation. Perhaps we're so accustomed to it we don't even recognize it often. But it is very important because this is what gives us new products, new services, new ways of working, new ways of living. Innovation can be seen either as a new product that provides a benefit which previously was not available. For example, netbooks, iPads, tablets. I'm just focusing here on technology, but this applies to medicine, to school, to colleges, to education in general, to ways of living, to manufacturing. It cuts across just about everything in our society. So we can see it as a new product. By a new product here, we particularly mean something which is tactile, something which we can touch. We can touch a tablet, we can pick it up, and we can pick up an iPhone. It's an innovation, but we can touch it. It's a product. There are innovations which are services, new ways of working, and these must be borne in mind as well. It can be a product which has been improved. For example, a change in colour or new features. It doesn't have to be an entirely new product. It could be an existing product that's been updated. And in fact, a lot of products in our lives are just that. We buy a car. The car is probably an innovation of a previous generation. The previous generation had a good radio, but now the car has got extra facilities. It can stream music, or it can tell you who's playing the music at a time on a screen. Perhaps that was not available before. The car itself may have a better engine. It's been innovated. It's been changed. And it's not just cars, products around the home, products in the office, products in the factory, products on the farm, whatever it is. The idea of innovation can be linked to the changes in the product. Now, innovation, new and old. Well, legally, the definition of new and old may differ significantly with definitions in the academic literature. What is a new product and what is an old product? Well, academics are not constrained by the pragmatism of the world to a large extent. Academics at universities and in colleges can make up their own definitions and apply them in their own models. But in a legal sense, we need to know what is a new product as opposed to an old product. For example, in America, the Federal Trade Commission states for a product to be new, it must be entirely new or changed significantly to be called new. So products that have just been amended in some way or have extra functionality or a new facility, these are not entirely new. It's the same product, but it's innovated, it's changed. The product may be called new for 6 months under this rule, after which it becomes an old product. Now that's just a definition as applied in America. Innovation is referred to as a new or improved product. Successful innovations spread throughout the market or even develop new markets. So when we think about innovation, we think of products changing. But it could be entirely new products are developed, in a sense, a radical innovation. And of course, these are the product of entrepreneurship. The entrepreneurs come up with these ideas, some of which will fail, some of which will be perhaps hugely successful. But without the entrepreneur, it won't happen. It's the entrepreneur who has the idea. And then it's the innovators, the people who bring the change about, who will deliver the product in conjunction with the entrepreneur, of course. Innovation can be seen as either a new product that provides a benefit which previously was not available, for example, notebooks, as I said earlier, or a product which has been improved, as I said earlier, in colour, additional features or services. Now, understanding the importance of innovation. Well, innovation is referred to as a new or improved product. So when we think of a new or improved product, we could call it innovated, or it's an innovation. It's something new. It's a new service. It provides a new function for us, a new way of working or a new way of living, or it simply improves something from the past. A vacuum cleaner. Vacuum cleaners vacuum the floor, but now vacuum cleaners have lights. Some vacuum cleaners are robotic. They can vacuum without a human involved. They map out the floor and go and vacuum it. Changing products, markets and society at a fast pace. That's what innovation does. It changes the way we live. The way we live today is totally different to the way our grandparents lived or our great-grandparents. And yet, in terms of time, they're not that long back. You go back 100 years, perhaps. Well, 100 years is not a lot, given the time we've lived on the planet. Humans have been on the planet for a long, long time. And yet, in the last 100 years, society has changed so much, because the pace of innovation is almost speeding up. Generally, customers must see a product as an innovation for it to be successful. We don't like to buy old products, generally speaking. We like to buy something new, which has got the latest features, the latest functions. We don't want to buy something which is going to be out of date very soon and not functional, can't be used. So we like to stay up with the latest thinking. Now, innovation can be seen as either a new product or service, a new product or just deal with it as a product for a moment. A new product that provides a benefit which previously was not available. For example, smart TVs, computers, network technology. So it's a new product that provides benefits that were not around before. Or a product which has been improved, a change in colour or additional features. Now, I hesitated with A for a moment because I said a new product. Well, we can think of products as something which is something we can touch. It's tactile. We can also think of products as services. And services have also been innovated. In conjunction with technology, we're able to get additional services. We now have takeaway food. In fact, we have food delivered to our homes. Cooked food delivered to our homes, some of which are delivered by taxi. Now, the taxi is used for other purposes, to transport people, but it could also transport food. It's all innovative thinking, using a facility in different ways. High cost of development, for example, the pharmaceutical industry and medical developments. Here, innovation is crucial. For a start, we want new medications. We want disease treated. We want ailments treated. So we want the drug companies to develop these products. But the drug companies have to engage in research and development, very expensive task. And in addition to that, they need to take the risk that they may fail and lose their investment. But they have to engage in this continuous process of innovation, in looking at the methods they use, the techniques, the equipment, to try and make breakthroughs in medicine. Now, the types of innovation, well, there are 3 types of innovation, and these depend on the time it takes for consumers to adopt the new product. So that's how we measure the 3 different types. It's the time period that consumers take to adopt the products. Some products are quickly adopted by consumers, and some take longer. This relies on the degree of change the product brings to the consumer's lifestyle. If it's a big change to our lifestyle, we may think about it longer. So a driverless car, a car which is has got technology that can drive us from one point to another. It's a radical change. We sit in the car and the technology does the driving. Now, it'll take perhaps a long time for customers to adopt that because they're unsure. Smaller changes will be more quickly adopted. So, for example, let's say somebody brings out a new phone which has got all of the functions of the current iPhone, but it can do something else. I can't think what, but it can do something else. Some entrepreneur has come up with some new idea for the iPhone. Then we would adopt that. It's something we're familiar with, something we can cope with. It's not a big change in our lifestyle. But a driverless car, that might be asking too much. So we might be slower to adopt that one. The 3 types of innovation are continuous innovation, what we call dynamically continuous innovation, and discontinuous innovation. And it's worth noting these. Continuous, dynamically continuous, and discontinuous innovations. Now, discontinuous innovation. Well, this is sometimes referred to as disruptive innovation. It disrupts the market. It's discontinuous. It's not based on anything in the past. It's something entirely new. So the customers are now confronted by something which is totally new. They have no experience. They've never come across this before. It's a new idea. It's a new product. And that's disruptive. It's disrupting the market. If the consumers buy it, they will have perhaps less resources, less money to buy other products. So it's disrupting the market. It's disrupting the flow onto that particular market as well, because established products which were being gently innovated are going to be outdated. This new disruptive technology, this very different technology, comes into the market and takes over. The introduction of cars in the early 1900s radically changed the way people lived and travelled. It represented a change in society, changing from horse and steam power to the internal combustion engine. That was a big change. That was disruptive. Before this, before the car was invented, people went by train or they went by horse-drawn carriages. And trains themselves were disruptive. But they'd only been around for whatever, 100 years or 150 years. And before that, society hadn't changed for millennia, for thousands of years. Or actually hadn't changed in terms of transportation at all, as far as we know. But then steam, that was disruptive. That was a big change in our ways of lives, and suddenly engines could travel faster and longer, and eventually it became more comfortable to travel by train. But then cars came along which were very flexible, could go right to your house. And cars become more reliable, more comfortable, and more disruption to the market. It was a disruptive technology. Continuous innovation. Well, let's continue with the car example. Once cars had been introduced and society changed as a consequence, the cars were subject to continuous innovation. Comparing the first car produced with the most modern car today shows amazing development and innovation. If you think about the first car, it was open. The engine was not very reliable. The braking system was primitive. Starting the engine was probably manual. The driver would have to get it started manually. It didn't have any facilities for heating or for entertainment or the weather. If it rained, it was you were likely to get wet, and so on and so on and so on. And we compared that to a modern car that now has satellite navigation and has the latest music center and can it's computer aided driving, and it's totally different. But that is continuous innovation. That's moved from the car. The concept of the car still remains the same. It's moved from the car all the way along in stages up to now, and it's likely to continue to change. Each development in the car's design and functionality represents continuous innovation. Continuous innovation is when existing products are slightly modified and introduced as new products. So car manufacturers will add something new, a keyless car. They just have a fob which will open the door, which will start the engine. It could be that the key is connected via electronics and perhaps a Bluetooth connection, so when people get in the car, the engine will start, or they can start it by just pressing a button. All of these developments grown over time, and car manufacturers are constantly looking for new additions to their cars, new ways for the cars to work and to deliver satisfaction to the driver. So it's continuous innovation. Continuous innovation is important as products need to maintain their competitive stance within the marketplace. If a car manufacturer, does not innovate and the others do, that manufacturer will lose market share. That manufacturer will probably go out of business. So it's important for the manufacturers to try and match each other and outcompete each other. And this is where competition has moved to. Competition is now more in the form of innovation, with companies trying to out-innovate each other, bringing out new products, but also changing existing products, continuously changing them, updating them. Continuous innovation builds a brand's product line, and if successfully accomplished, gains market share. If a company has a reputation for being innovative, then customers will look to that producer to see what the producer is doing, because that producer may be leading the market, the rest are following. Apple, when they brought out the iPhone, led the market. It's only now that Samsung and others are catching up. Well, some would say Samsung have now gone further, but that's the debate between the owners of one versus the owners of the other. But certainly, when Apple brought it out, that was a new disruptive technology. And then they continuously refine it by giving it more functionality, giving it an easier interface. But other companies must do the same if they are to survive. And ideally, what they want to do is to come up with an innovation which will beat Apple and give them the lead. And that's where the competitive process is moved to, as I said earlier. Continuous innovations are easier to adopt by consumers. They do not have to learn anything new about the product. And that's essentially true. If we consider the iPhone again as an example, every year thereabouts, Apple bring out updates to the phone. So users may have to learn something slightly new, but not a lot. Once they've got an iPhone and learned how to use it, there may be slight changes in how the phone is used. But then it's not a big task to learn those changes. So as time goes by, the customers get to know the product, get to live with the product. The product itself is being innovated continuously. New additions, perhaps the iPhone example, new additions to the software, new functionality, and the users don't have to learn too much. They don't have to spend too much time engaging in learning how to use the changes that have been introduced. The degree of change depends on the needs of customers and marketing strategy. Some copycat and develop products that are the same as their competitors. And this happens. It's not surprising that someone came up with the idea of putting, let's say, a camera onto a phone. Nowadays, most phones have got cameras. But someone originally did it. I don't know who exactly. And let's say, I don't know who was the first, but let's just assume that Apple were the first to introduce a phone with a camera. Well, then Samsung thought, that's a good idea. We can do that as well. But then Nokia, and so on and so on, until all phones just about now have got cameras. So then it went back to somebody else to say, well, okay, we've got a phone with a camera. What else can we put onto the phone? Can we add something else? And of course, what they've added was the internet, and with the internet, all the functionality of the internet, and specialist programming called responsive programming, which means that websites can be seen on the phone, can be easily seen on the phone. They fit onto the screen. So all the technology started to come together. But each company is trying to outwit the others. They're trying to get an advantage over the others and bring out something new. If they can't, the best they can do is copy what's there already. Imitate the most successful. Developing products and packaging similar to competitors is deceptive and convince customers that they are buying the same brand. That's what they're trying to do. They're bringing out essentially the same product, and this happens not just with phones. It happens with cars, the shape of cars even. A lot of cars start to look the same after a while. They essentially have the same bodywork. They might have the same feel on the inside, because all of the producers in the market are trying to copy the most successful one, and therefore the differentiation between their product and the most successful one becomes less and less, and all of them are converging on the most successful product until one of them gets a totally new idea, disruptive technology, gets a totally new idea and brings out something completely different. And then the whole process will start again with all of the existing producers now trying to copy that new technology. So, continuous innovation and knockoffs. Well, continuous and successful innovation can result in business success leading to growth, greater market presence and higher profits. So successful innovation is what companies want. They want to be seen as innovators, they want to be seen as successful, they want to have a product that customers want, they want to lead the market. In the absence of barriers to entry, barriers to stop companies coming into a market, there can be a whole range of barriers to entry, and that's the subject matter of a separate video on the course, or set of videos on the course. This will lead to, the barriers to entry will lead to competitors producing similar products and thereby taking some of the profitability associated with the innovation. These similar products are sometimes referred to as knockoffs. They're very similar. And of course, the company who has introduced the new product, they will not get the full rewards for their efforts. They won't get the full profitability from the efforts because other companies are imitating it. So what they need to do is protect their idea, protect their innovation if they can. And I'd refer you on to look up barriers to entry and the videos on barriers to entry, which are available on the course. Knockoffs vary in functionality, color, texture, design, sufficiently. They do vary sufficiently to prevent legal disputes with the original innovator. But at the same time, knockoffs, they cash in on the success of the original innovation. So the people who are copying, they don't want to get involved in law cases over copyright and breaking patents and so on. But at the same time, if they can, they will copy. They will vary it slightly, they will add in something new, something different, and try to get away with introducing essentially the same item. Now, dynamically continuous innovation. Well, dynamically continuous innovation requires some degree of learning and change in behavior. So now the buyer, the customer, will have to learn how to use the product. So there is an investment on the part of the buyer. They have to know how to use it. If we buy a particular computer, one perhaps with an operating system with which we're not familiar, we have to learn how to use it. The onus is on us to learn how to use that particular product. If we're used to Windows and we buy an Apple Mac, we have to learn how to use the Apple Mac. Or we might use Ubuntu or one of the Linux systems or whatever it is. We have to learn how to use it. The existing product is modified to meet customer demands or launch new technologies. The process requires customers to learn how to use the product. So even if Apple, for example, now with the iPhone comes up with some incredible use, some amazing use for the iPhone, but it's so sophisticated we have to learn how to use it. That might put off certain customers. The market for the iPhone may fall off. So the innovation was meant to improve our lives, improve our experiences, but it may actually be to the detriment of Apple, because customers are reticent to invest time and effort in learning, particularly learning a technology which perhaps is not one which is fundamental to them. They don't see it as perhaps that important. So with dynamically continuous innovation, the customers must invest time in learning how to use the innovative product. The shift from, for example, record players to cassettes, well, there was a small change there. You have to, instead of buying records, you buy cassette tapes, but you have to have a cassette deck, and you have to know how to use forwards and backwards and so on. But then CD players, and you have to realize the limitations of the CD player and how to skip tracks and move in terms of music CDs from one track to the next, and you have to learn how to use it. The MP3s, how to select music on MP3s. And now, of course, online. How do we get music online? How do we set up playlists, and how do we download albums? And so we have to, as customers, learn how to use this. It's dynamically continuous innovation. It's not done for us. Now, convergent innovation. Well, convergent technology is when a product incorporates several divergent capabilities. In other words, there are different capabilities, there are different aspects to the product, and the product incorporates all of these. For example, a modern smartphone. Now, it may make phone calls, access the internet, send and receive emails and maintain contact lists, make conference calls, access spreadsheets and word process materials, alarm clock, timer, reminder, personal digital assistant. Nowadays we have OK Google and Cortana and Siri and Alexa. Access TV and radio channels. We can watch television on the phone. Maps and guidance to find our way around. Google Maps, for example. It has a powerful camera. Set reminders and take quick notes. Shopping list. And bring up a shopping list very fast and amend it as we go through. It has a voice recorder, perhaps. We can take quick notes to ourselves, memos, communicate and synchronize with other platforms. We're able to talk to, if we have an iPhone, we can talk to the computer, to an Apple computer, or to a PC. So we're able to communicate across the network. We're able to access a wide range of apps for productive and gaming purposes. We can play games on the phone. We can see here that we've got 14. That's just a list I made. I'm sure if you sit down to think about it, you can come up with more. 14 functions, which only one, number one, back on the, just put the cursor onto the screen for a second there. This number one here, that's what we normally classify to be a telephone. All the rest have been added on. Of course, we have to learn how to use them, but having said that, these are all facilities that came in one small computer, which we now call a smartphone, which we keep with us. Now, discontinuous innovations are radical changes in products or introduction of new products that change the way we live and our lifestyle. That's discontinuous. We're not moving smoothly from one time period to the next. We move along, and then we have this big change brought about by some new product, new functionality, new discovery, new invention, whatever it is. But something new comes on the scene which changes the way we live. This continuous innovation requires a major change in attitude and behaviour and lifestyle. We can't easily accommodate it. It's something which is quite big for us. So when mobile phones, or as the Americans say, cell phones were first introduced, that was a big change to our society. Now, with the advent of smartphones, with some of the functionality I've just listed earlier, we can see society has changed quite a lot as a consequence of the introduction of mobile phones and smartphones, because the innovators have added to what the original product could do. Time needs to be invested to learn the new product, however, simply because it's the only product on the market. For example, personal computers, GPS, television, the internet, etc. If something is completely new, if a company comes up with something completely radically new, then it's the only one on the market. And as consumers, if we buy it, we have to learn how to use it. And it may not be intuitive. We have to invest time and effort in learning how to use it. Depending on the newness and complexity of the innovation, marketing strategies may have to be designed to overcome resistance and reluctance to embrace the new ways. Because we don't want to spend a lot of time learning something and perhaps going onto magazines and finding horror stories about people who try to fix something and it all got worse and now the product is no good, it's corrupted or whatever. We are, generally speaking, quite reticent about changing settings or changing the way products work. If it works, we tend to leave it. It works. But in fact, with some innovations, we need to know how it works in case we need to fix it. And this is particularly true of, for example, computers, home computers. If the computer becomes corrupted in some way, we need a way of fixing it ourselves. We need to know what's happened. We need to take remedial measures and know how to take the remedial measures. So the conclusion, well, innovation is an effective marketing strategy, however, requires a lot of market research to determine the product's success. So it could be an innovative idea, but perhaps no one wants it. So the fact that it's an innovation, a change or a newness in a product doesn't mean it's going to be successful. So market research is required to feed back on whether the innovation will be commercially successful. Products need to go through innovation and modification in order to maintain competitive advantage. So competition is not so much on price. There's an element of that, but it's also to do with the style of the product, the color, the texture, and the functionality of the product. It's also related, of course, to the robustness of the product and the reputation of the business. So marketing the product is complex. There must be a need for this continuous innovation in order for it to be successful. The process requires time and effort from the consumer part. They must see a perceived benefit of the product. So discontinuous innovation requires the users to know how to use it, how to fix it, how to maintain it, how to use it effectively as well, how to get the best out of it. But that means the users have to invest time and effort in learning the product. So there must be a real need for it before it's adopted. If it's a frivolous product, a small product that's not really that important to us in life, and it requires a lot of time to learn it, then it will not, the chances are, be adopted by consumers. And that's it. That's all we need to do when looking at continuous innovation. You've got to remember there are three types. You've got to remember what the features of the three types are. So go back over, make sure you know the three types and what the three types mean. That's the purpose of this particular video. But that's all we're going to deal with here. So let's leave it at that and say thank you for watching.